letters, dash 2 letters, Daniel 12:4, and it means until the time. And the thought occurred to me, how's anybody supposed to know what that is, until the time? It's gibberish. And then the thought occurred to me, and I say that because I don't know that I generated the thought, but it was in my head. What if the time that it's referring to can be determined or decrypted by analyzing the letters that spell the word? If that's the case, then you have to go back and look at the spelling of the word in Hebrew, not Greek, not Latin, not English. And if you look at it in modern, well, if Daniel's guy that changed the orthography from the Paleo or the ancient into the modern, that was the very device used to hide and seal. So you can't look at that. Well, you can, you'll find something, but you go back before it was hidden and sealed by Daniel. This is an eyeball. This is a dalet, which is a door. So you can say, what does eyeball mean? Well, you look at the word ayin in the dictionary. It means weigh carefully, balance exactly, measure precisely, look well to, and really calculate and evaluate. Yeah, zero right in there like you're fine-tuning an instrument. That's ayin. Dalet means door, which we said is a decision. Look well to what decision? Again, ayin is another scrutinizing. What's tav? Well, tav is a target, a sign, a mark. Sign of the covenant. Brit, resh, yod, tav. So if tav is the sign of the covenant, just to cut to the chase, every letter of the alphabet is a sign, a symbol, which speaks of the covenant. The covenant, I believe, is composed of these 22 letters. And if you analyze each one of the 22 letters, that is the covenant. The covenant relationship between humanity and Elohim, its creator, or between Yahuwah and Israel, or between the Kala, the bride, and Mashiach, it's all in the 22 letters. So if you can determine or analyze the meaning of the 22 letters, you're ironing the Tav. But it's a catch-22 with ironing the dalet. Catch-22, you can't have this unless you first have that. But you can't have that unless you first have this. So you either have both or neither. So think of the lock. Think of the padlock that Yahweh put this under. Hide the words and seal the book until the time that you got the catch-22. You got to have both or nothing. How do you have both? Well, if we're right now talking about the meaning of the Hebrew letters, we're ironing tav. To make a long story short, what I found is that the meaning of the Hebrew letters are at different layers and levels. One is, by definition, Aleph means ox, Bet means house, Gimel means camel, blah, blah. They all mean something. But they're key to the Moedim. If you know the Moedim, it synchronizes with the letters between Het and Zadi, which establishes the whole thing. It's a proof. It's rock solid. It's tied to the 7 days of creation, the Moedim of Leviticus 23, the pattern of the Mishkan, the Tabanit in Exodus 25. So there it is. But we just said that nobody in the last 50, 60 years that I know of has ever told us to regard the Moedim. Maybe some Messianic Jews put on a Seder and said, hey, this is how there's Messiah in the Haggadah. But did they ever tell you you should really be doing this? Did the Messianic Jews even say that about the other festivals? This message is not real common, nor has it been. So there's something about timing. This is a timing chain from a motorcycle with a key. It's like, wait a minute. If we had the right key in the right time, what's going to... The key for what? A door? What door? Here's ayin dalet. If you had the right door and the key at the right time, man, you're going to fly. You're going to... We got something... The word Avraham, literally, Abraham literally means pinion wings. Yitzhak is hilarious laughter, like exploding fireworks in the sky. And the word Yaakov literally means to jump up into the third dimension, like Superman leaping over obstacles. They all have to do with being launched or catapulted into another dimension and going, see ya, to your adversaries. The Elohim of Yitzhak, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yaakov, we don't even begin to understand what he had in store for us. We just say, oh, that's God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's the power base that launches you into your potential And for all these 3,000 years, the entire people group of the 12 tribes have been darn fools, idiots. He says, you guys are real smart when it comes to working wickedness. You know, the fractional reserve banking system and all these legal tricks and loopholes. But when it comes to working righteousness, you're fools. That's what he said. What? Me? There's a way to work righteousness? Yes, balanced scales. The measure you use is measured to you. Mishpat, balanced scales like iron. Gee, if the teeter-totter, you're sitting on the teeter-totter, and if you're down here and you get a guy with a light weight up there, you're going to stay there. But if you get a big guy and he just wham, jumps down on this, you're going to go flying, right? How do you tip the teeter-totter? In the Song of Moses, in Deuteronomy 32, Yahweh says that he stationed or positioned all the other nations around Israel. Oh, so we think geographically. Here's Israel in the middle of the land, and everybody else is like, wait a minute, that's a concept. Israel is the focus of his attention, the apple of his eye, everything is about his relationship with this treasured people. Everybody else is staging. Everybody else is catalyst, or everybody else is a useful tool. But it's all about Yahweh and Israel, and we can all choose to be Israel. But the point is, Yahweh says, I made you be up to ride on the high places of the earth, and when you betray the covenant, you're down and everybody else gets your stuff. That's what's happened for the last 3,000 years. How do we tip the scales? There's another mystery that he says, Mishpat like water, Zadikah like a river. What's Mishpat? Down in the scales of justice. What's water? If you were going to solve this riddle, balance scales like water, how would you do it? The second half, then righteousness like a river. How do you do that? In the interest of time, I'll cut to the chase. Water finds its own level. Water doesn't flow unless something's out of sorts. The teeter-totter doesn't move unless there's an out of balance. So if the teeter-totter's one way, you have to put something else in the other way to bring up the balance. So if Mishpat's supposed to be like water, and repeatedly, hundreds of times all through Scripture, Yahweh says his job is to return a man's way on his own head. And he does it, that's his thing. That's his shem. And you see that and search it out, you'll, wow, man, this is what he does. He sees to it that a man's way is returned upon his own head. Good for good, evil for evil. So he says, don't do evil. I'm telling you guys how it works. This is what he says. Do righteousness. The word Zadikah is righteousness, but it's also victory, deliverance, and salvation. So if the teeter-totter's tipped because Israel is down and everything else is just pounded on Israel because Israel went stupid, look at Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28. This is all the bad stuff that's going to happen because you guys did bad stuff. How do you tip the scales and get out of that sinkhole to righteousness? Because the word Zadikah will balance the scales of us doing raw wickedness, and when we start doing righteousness, because everybody else has been doing wickedness to take advantage of this situation, the only way for him to balance the scales is to give us Zadikah back, which is victory, deliverance, and salvation. The same word for righteousness is victory, deliverance, and salvation. And this has nothing to do with Yeshua dying on the cross, because this is back in Deuteronomy. This is not, oh, we don't have to do that anymore. This is how it works. We've been lied to about how we're supposed to conduct our life. If we start doing what he said, which is the Torah, it'll tip the seesaw, balance the scales, and everything on the face of the planet will start changing. But if we sit here doing nothing because we think it was all done for us, oh, the Messiah died on the cross. He just bought back our ability to get back and engaged in the game. It's like fouling out and having to sit in the penalty booth. Yeshua on the cross, the way I see this, got us back in the game and said, well, go ahead and do the stuff you're supposed to do. And the rule called leading you into the truth. It's like, well, I don't have to do anything. I can just sit here and watch. But there's nothing happening except for more and more trouble. We could go on, but I could show you countless verses. You look at it in Hebrew and Yahweh says, where's that rapture bus going to show up? It's not the rapture bus, it's us doing what he said, and it changes everything to where the teeter-totter ships, And that's where he talks about restoring the land. That's where he talks about everything blooming. You want to have a 1,000-year reign of Messiah? Whether or not Yeshua is here, he promises to restore his favor, which he turned away from because we did villainy. He said, you betrayed me with treachery. You profaned the covenant. And then we had teachers dressed in fancy robes saying, you don't have to. He never meant for you to. You can't. And yet Abraham did what he was told. He said, remember my name. Sorry, it doesn't matter. Yeah, yes, it does matter. Everything he says matters. As a matter of fact, the word moedim is spelled with a mem vav in front of ayin dalet. That's the word ed, moed. Because it means witness and testimony. Until the time of the witness and testimony, understanding the door, and it's hyphenated, understanding the terms of the covenant, which is in these paleo letters. It's also in modern, it's in Hebrew, but you can't see it the same. Left brain, right brain. Yeshua claimed to be the door. Understand what Yeshua said? If you think that the Christ figure came to absolve us of all responsibility, doing exactly what the Ruach is going to lead us into, which is the Torah, which is the mind and heart of Yahuwah, by which a man shall live if he does these things. If you think the Christ figure came to do away with that, you've got the wrong guy, the wrong teaching. To understand his words, to ayin the dalet, the door. What door did he open? The key is, Yeshua told us plainly, I have only come to say the words I heard the Father saying, to do the things I heard the Father doing, to lead you to follow me, to restore the covenant. I'm going to leave you the Ruach, who will lead you into the full scope, multidimensionally, of every letter of that alphabet, which is his face. And when we seek his face, we look at his words and we do what the words say, putting it into practice, the teeter-totter shifts, that door opens, and the entire world will be a different place. If you have a gun and you've got it in your sights like this, and you change the sights, guess what? The bullet's going to hit a different target. We change the teeter-totter and everything looks different. We do what he says. We take on his mind and everything is going to change. Therefore, there's countless books written about eschatology, the times of the end, the things that are going to happen, the tribulation, the Antichrist, the beast. If we don't change, it might happen the way they say. But because the people writing those books have no idea about the Moedim, Yom HaShabbat, Yahweh's Penei, his words, or Mashiach showing us his words, and the Ruach leading us to comprehend exactly what they mean in all depth of their respect and regard. Sure, they're going to write books. It's an occupation. They need to eat too. But what information are you going to get? The wrong aim. Yahweh says in Jeremiah 31 that there's going to come a time with a new covenant, right? And he says, they will all know me. No more will any man need to teach his friend or his brother saying, oh, you should know Elohim, because they'll all know me. From the least of these to the greatest. The word spelled me is Aleph, Vav, Tav, Yod. Oti. This letter means my. And this word, ot, look in the dictionary, sign, symbol, signal, a miracle, some kind of indicator. If I hold a flag up, it's an indication that a nation rules this. It also means the letter of the alphabet. So instead of translating it, they will all know my letter of the alphabet. My letters of the alphabet. They'll all know me by my letters of the alphabet. It just says they'll all know me. And so the whole new covenant is based on that. Oh, I know the Lord. Nobody needs to teach me. Really? But you don't know anything about the letter of the alphabet, and yet he declares right here, you could read this as saying, I am the guy referred to by the symbol of every letter of the alphabet. So if you study knowing the letters of the alphabet, that's him. But how can you claim you know him when you have no regard for his day and the Moedim, which are the witnesses and testimonies of his exact character, his Shem? They are the things which testify of his identity. Moed. It's translated appointed time. But it's the tool, the object, that's mem, the object of witness and testimony. Those devices which validate his authenticity, that he's the guy that created the heavens and the earth and that sent the Mashiach to us, is attested to by these 7 festivals. So when you have an entire culture that for 2,000 years has forsaken them and replaced them with something else, it's a genetically modified, non-organic, not even an organism. There's no life in it. The scripture says if they speak not according to the Torah, there's no light in them. For us to keep these Moedim is everything. It'll change the world. How much time do we have left? How much? 30 minutes? Let me show you the treasure map. Now the thing about a treasure map is it's supposed to hide something so that if a bozo is actually a Hebrew word. It has to do with somebody who's a kind of a fool, an idiot.
Really?
Oregon is a Hebrew word. Pirates, that's a Hebrew word. Yahweh says, because Israel, I gave you all my good stuff, my treasures, and you guys didn't care for it, I'm going to call for the pirates. The pirates are the people that break things, have no regard of any artistic or worthwhile value. They just come in and smash and break and Pirates, that's Hebrew. So if you don't want somebody to find it, you have to hide it. So the map has to be cryptic. So I'm going to show you a map and see if you can sepher the dots. Connect the pictures like Abraham connected the stars and formed constellations. What picture do you get if you connect these dots? But I'm just going to give them to you, and whether you write them down or we can deal with this another time, maybe later. Okay, so let's say you have an arrow. Just an arrow, it points direction. Then let's say you have a seed. So there's something in a seed. And then let's say you have a boomerang. And then you have a locked door. Say the door handle is locked. And then you have a pair of binoculars. And then you've got a tar pit, kind of bubbling up with gases coming out of it. Then you have a whip. And then you have a fence with a line strung between it. And then you have, say, you could have a trash can lid. This thing doesn't respond real quickly, so sorry about that. You have a piano playing music, heart and soul. Anybody see where this is going yet? So if you found this map, you'd probably just throw it away and go watch TV.
YouTube.
The next thing you have is a helm. And say there's a compass. Next thing you see is a fish bowl with a fish in it. Then there's a tree. And then let's say there's a say balanced scales. See again, if you ever go on what do they call those? A scavenger hunt. If there's this whole list of things and boom, 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 it's kind of like that. I could show you all these pictures and have you look through Scripture and you're going, what am I looking for? But if you knew what you were looking for, you'd find it just like that. Say the next one is a pizza. And then the next thing is a butterfly coming out of its chrysalis. So the chrysalis is opened up and the butterfly is sitting here with his wing. And then the next thing is the sun on the horizon. And you could say here's the teeter-totter next to it, the teeter-totter in front of a backdrop of that. And then you have a mountain, like a volcano. In Portland, Oregon, they have what's called Mount Hood, which is this kind of a quintessential conical shaped mountain as a background to the city. And then say you've got a shark fin in the water, and then you have kind of like this. Here's the treasure signal. What's that got to do with anything?
Hebrew letter.
Huh?
Hebrew letter.
Yeah, these are the 22 Hebrew letters. You see, Aleph is drawn as an ox, but it's also an arrowhead. And when Yahweh says, as I have planned, so shall it be. He says, that which I have purposed, so shall it come about. The word that comes out of my mouth will not return void. It will accomplish what I set it forth to do. So a guy that picks up a bow and arrow has a target in mind, and when he aims and lets that fly, and Yahweh said, it has to hit the target, you can count on it. Okay, well the target is a tav. The arrow flying is an aleph. An ox is something that they put the yoke on it, and they put a mark in the distance, and the ox would pull that yoke a straight line, a straight furrow. That's why they would use an ox. Its mind is invented by Yahweh to be fit for that use. So for the ox to be the aleph is cryptically him saying, I had a plan, and I implemented my plan, and it'll happen. So that means the plan is the aleph, and the accomplishment of the plan is the tav. When Yeshua said, I'm the aleph and tav, he wasn't just giving himself a nickname. The movie E.T., Extraterrestrial, it's a messianic picture. It was done by Spielberg. They know about these things. Them Jews, you know, they like to hide stuff. Because Yahweh hides stuff. I know I'm being kind of, rude by saying that. Anytime you classify a group of people, but hey, we're doing that stuff too. I'm just saying, I'm not defaming anybody. I'm acknowledging that Brother Yehuda has at least kept the words of the Torah in Hebrew, which none of the other idiot 12 tribes did. You ever hear that cartoon where you big galoot?
Yeah.
You know what a galoot is?
Exile.
Huh?
Exile.
It's one of the northern tribes sent into exile. It's Hebrew, Gimel Lamed. But you know this letter here, a boomerang? That's the letter Gimel and the letter Lamed. So in Paleo, they're shaped like this. It's like a rolling stone. It's a revolving door. When he kicks you out, you're allowed to come back, but you're also allowed to be sent away again if you don't straighten up. What I'm saying is it's a reciprocation, a back and forth, like a camel back and forth on the road. So the letter Bet means house, like a seed. He put something in there. So when he told to Daniel, hide the words of the seal of the book till the time of the end, many shall run to and fro and knowledge shall increase. Doing what? Looking for what he hid? And then Daniel says, I saw one on this side of the river and one on that side of the river. I'm exaggerating, but by me looking over here and over, my head is gimmeling back and forth. So cryptically, Daniel is also drawing a treasure map in Daniel 12. Hide the words and seal the book. That's the plan. That's the aleph that Gabriel gave to Daniel. And he was put it into some kind of a seed that nobody can find. And then Daniel says, I gimel. And then, here's the proof of the matter. Here's the door. The next position is Dalet, which is the fourth letter. And Daniel says, I saw one above the waters of the river, dressed in white linen. Well, who's worthy of being dressed in white linen? Only one. Mashiach, right? No matter who you think he is or isn't, Mashiach. So whether he's Jesus the Christ or whether he's Yeshua, that's another doctrinal debate. But what Daniel certainly saw was a Mashiach figure. And here we have a closed door in this little thing. Why is there a closed door? Yeshua came to reopen the door because of our behavior, got that thing locked. I can show you countless verses to talk about that, but the point is Yeshua came to bring us back, the open door, back to the Father's house. And when he sees this one in the fourth position, the Dalet, who is above the waters of the river, and they say that water is symbolic of people, the next letter is a Hey, which means to reveal, like the word Hana, which is to behold, or Hineni, hey, here I am. So Hey speaks of to shine the light. And he says, hey, how long till the end of these wonders? He's asking for a revelation. That's a Hey. And then he refers to that guy again. Now we're in the Vav position. So Vav equals Dalet. So Vav is the man, the number 6, the 6th letter, and Dalet. So that man who was above the waters of the river held up his right hand and his left hand. Well, that's the paleo letter Vav. And he swore by him who lives forever. The next letter, Zion, is the 7th letter. The word Shavah 7 means to swear a vow. So see, I'm showing you cryptically how each of these things are in here. He said, it will be for time, times, and half a time. Well, that extent is this containment. It'll be for that's putting something in a fence. And then he says, until the end of the fragmenting of the hands of the Kadosh people. Well, the tent is a full basket. So when the basket's full, till all these things be accomplished. And the next letter is Yod, which means to grab on. And Daniel said, I heard that, didn't understand. I was like, I can't grab it. So then Kaf is an open hand. He says, will you tell me again? I'm asking you how long to the end of these wonders? And he says, go, Daniel. Lamed is the voice of authority. Lakha means go. They are hidden and sealed. That's Mem, hidden and sealed in this womb. They are hidden and sealed. So the time to end. Many shall look to and many shall refine them and seek it. That's the letter Nun. It's this action. And then the stomach. The wicked shall do wickedly. The stomach happens to line up with the menorah. We're going around the cycle here. Stomach, like the menorah, like this purple letter here, is an engineered structure equating to Yeshua saying, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Stay plugged in and bear fruit. The wicked doing wickedly twist and don't bear good fruit, and it'll end up getting chopped off and thrown in the fire. You see this treasure map that Daniel was giving us the meanings of the letters? None of the wicked will understand. Ayin has to do with understanding. The righteous will understand. Why? Because they listen to the mouth. Pei is followed by Zadi. That's the word pronounced pizza. P and TZ, pizza. You know what pizza means in Hebrew? It means to scatter and detonate like a pizza looks, but it also means open mouth. Matthew 5, Yeshua on the hill, seeing the multitudes. He went up onto a mountain hilltop, and he sat down. You know what it says next? He opened his mouth. Now, come on. When does anybody ever tell a story and say, well, he opened his mouth? You don't talk like that, right? So that weird little thing, oh, he opened his mouth, is a clue that was left there on purpose for us to come back and plug it right into this alphabetic sequence. It's the only reason it's there, because it means something, and if you don't know the alphabet, it'll go right past you, because it's hidden and sealed. So that's basically saying we should go back and listen because there's something encrypted. Well, that happens to validate the Mishkan pattern with the Moedim and the 7 days and that whole thing. So the righteous will understand, and then it talks about the abomination of desolation. For a certain amount of time, 1300 I think it is, well, the Kuf is this overview, this rising up and spreading out. It's like, what abomination of desolation? My point is, if you can lock in concepts with each one of these letters progressively in sequence, and you get to Zadi, the word Zadi means righteous. It lines up with the Ark of the Covenant. It lines up with the day of Shabbat. It lines up with the Yom of the Moed of Shemini Atzeret. And it has to do with abomination of desolation. Another translation says mute abomination. What's an abomination? Something which is defiled, which doesn't reproduce properly. A distorted DNA. And desolation is to bring everything to ruin. So, thank you, Monsanto. If you change the DNA of the plants, things can't reproduce. But if you change the words and the concepts of Yahweh's Moed, you've got a genetic mutation that can't bring forth the next generation, so that Yahweh's Shem Zakar is infertile. And you can't go back and give it back. You can't chase down the pirates, the thief, and say, give it back. All you can do is It's like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. You know the word Oz is Hebrew, Ayin Zion. It means spectacular, daring like a goat. It's just shining and glorious and wow. All she did was that. You could have gone home many times, click your ruby slippers together and said, what? I had the key the whole time? At the right time, if we have the key, what's the key? The Mishkan pattern of the alphabet. And Yeshua brought it to us, and the proof that we're talking about this is that it is the time. Now's the time. We got the time, we got the key, we got the ayin of the Tav, we got the ayin of the Dalet, so that we can reverse or pay no attention to the abomination of desolation standing in the Kadosh Kodashim, because it's the true interpretation of his words that he gave as an eternal Brit, a covenant, Leolam, and ever. It's like to infinity and beyond, forever and ever. It's that witness, that ayin dalet is the witness and testimony. That which is a legal statement corroborated by two witnesses. The two hays of Yod Hey Vav Hey are the voice of witness and testimony corroborating Vav, the voice of the Messiah. So you got the Torah and the Ruach validating the Messiah, that they're all one voice with the Yod, the hand of the Creator. So in the creation, the heavens declare his glory. The Torah expresses how they all work. Mashiach, that's Yod, Hey, Mashiach, the Vav, the man, embodied them in human form, and then Hey, he'd give us the Ruach to lead us into the truth. So when all four letters, Yod, Hey, Vav, and Hey, are not four individual, different, but Echad, singular, yeah, but the Holy Spirit told me I didn't have to keep that Torah. Yeah, I get back there. When they're Echad, a singular voice, we know we're on the right track. That's the plumb line. That's lining up with the Torah. So when he says Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Yahweh is one, is there three? Is there two? There's 22. He determined 22. How do you say that? Trinity is 3, quadrinity or quadrangle is 4. What's 22? Dodecahedron, I think that's 10. But anyway, my point is, it's like this 22 dimension thing he gave us. Sure, there's a value of understanding 1 or understanding 2 or understanding 3 and understanding 7, but he gave us all 22. We've been missing out on what he came to give us. So if people will say, oh, there's the end of the world, we're just getting back in the game. Why should this be the end of the world? After that time, blessed is the man, honorable is the man who waits and comes to, I think it says the 1260 days. Resh is an exalted man, but as for you, Daniel, live out your days, you'll come to your end and rest, and then arise to your portion at the end. That's the end of the book of Daniel. It follows cryptically, each one. So if you go back to this treasure map, there's a closed door and then a boomerang. And a boomerang bounces off, and then there's the binoculars saying, where's the key? What are we supposed to do? And you end up getting stuck in a tar pit. Well, a tar pit's a vav. You get stuck into something. Basically, another proof here. There's a verse where he says, take the sealed book and give it to a literate man, and say, read this, please. And the literate man says, I can't read it, it's a sealed book. In other words, if Yahweh up until now has kept his word sealed, we can't blame the Greeks, the Jews, the Romans, the Christians, the pirates, because Yahweh did it. Yahweh did it to his own stuff, to his own people. Nobody is to be blamed but ourselves. Then he says, give the book, the sealed book, to an illiterate man. And the illiterate man says, lo, you don't know it says this, you're illiterate. Then these are these words. And then he says this. That's what the illiterate man said. If you translate it in the English, it says, I'm illiterate, I don't know how to read. I don't know books. But you're illiterate. We could do this, but we're running out of time, so I'll go pretty fast here. This letter looks like a shepherd's staff or a rudder. It guides direction. If this is an arrow, then how you hold the bow guides the direction, right? See that? So these two letters together basically is, okay, I'm going to hold the bow and aim it a certain way. You don't know what it really means, you're just reading the letters, right? You're like cartoons, you're looking at the pictures. Okay, here. This is the excavator arm that reaches out and grabs something. So is this letter. You got these three. I already told you that's a door, and that's an eyeball, and that's a sign or a symbol, like a letter of the alphabet. Door, understanding the cryptic letters, that's the letter Tav, which is the sign of the covenant, is the target. Door to understanding the target, which this bow and arrow over here was aiming at. So there's an excavator arm on both sides. It's almost like a crab with its pincers. So you picture this crab or a lobster, it's like you come near this, it's like guarding the treasure. So there's a crab guarding the treasure of the door to understanding the covenant. Well, that's proof that it's locked up. And then you look at this. The engineered structure, like the vine and the branches of a trellis, that which guides the plant how to grow, according to the mouth of the Resh, the exalted man. Well, that's the Messiah. Go back and look at the engineered structure of everything the Messiah said when he opened his mouth. What did he say? I only say what I hear the Father saying. So the engineered structure of anything the Messiah said has to fit like gears meshing perfectly to the Torah. Yeshua is the Torah incarnate. Anything his Ruach says has to match the Torah. So that when we're told to honor Jesus rising from the dead on Sunday, forsake the day that we're supposed to not work on Saturday. You can worship any day. You can go to church any day. But when you obliterate what he said to do for the sake of honoring him with a greater regard, you've just abominated and caused desolation, and you've just perpetuated the sealing of the book. If you go back and you look at, even a psalmic can be written like this is the letter Hey, and though it's inverted 9 degrees, there's another letter Hey, and then here's, you could say this is the Vav. There's the Vav man, almost like wings, like the Elohim of Abraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov being able to fly, because Yeshua didn't come, hey, watch me walk on water, woohoo, that's proof I'm God. No, he said, everything I do, you guys should be doing, and even more so. He didn't prove that he was God. He said, let me show you what you guys should be doing. We have so fallen. He came to point us back to the Father's house and open the door so we can get back in. What's the engineered structure? What's the psalmic of the mouth of Yeshua? The engineered structure goes back to the pattern. The word pattern is tabanit. Tav, bet, nun, yod, tav. It's in Exodus 25, I believe it is, where Yahweh showed Moshe the pattern of the Mishkan. And the word Mishkan means literally the place where I dwelled neighborly with you, in your midst, in your presence, us, hand in hand like the Sukkot of David. Hand in hand, my beloved, listening and speaking to each other. Yahweh says, you don't pay attention to my words when I speak. I will not hear your words while you scream and your enemies are tearing you to pieces. Repeatedly he says that. We don't listen to him, he cannot hear us. Regardless of what's preached, regardless of the prayers, regardless of the intention of the heart, he says, we don't apply our ear to his mouth, then he will not, cannot hear our prayers, and even our prayers are an abomination, and that word abomination is that thing which is completely distorted, like getting feedback from the speaker system, and it's like, and our prayers don't work. For 2,000, for 3,000 years, our prayers haven't even worked to the potential of how they were designed, because we were fed lies, distortions, and abominations. That word abomination, if you eat certain food, it will abominate you, corrupt you, alter your DNA or your thinking patterns, or however. It's the same words. We do what he says, and it facilitates communication and relationship. Hand in hand, like the woven sukkah. The ball's in our court. It's up to us. We go back and we correlate the Hey, the Torah of the Yod, the Hey, the Ruach of the Vav, and Yeshua, the one who embodied. And you see these things in the pictures. And those two Heys together look like a sonic. So the engineered structure of the mouth of the Messiah is that it's correlating the Torah and the Ruach to human behavior as we treat one another and regard his identity, which are embedded in the Moedim. So you lose the Moedim, he has a different identity. You don't keep the Yom HaShabbat, he has a different Shem. And it has nothing to do with the pronunciation of his name. So going back to the treasure map, the whip for the number 7, how much time we got?
No, you got about 10 minutes.
Huh?
10.
10 minutes, okay. Let me tell you another way to read the alphabet. A lot of words that start with an aleph are translated as I will or I am and then the verb. I will walk, if walk is halakha, if you write it with an aleph, it means I will walk. Okay, anyway, the point is, if aleph is the prefix letter that suggests the first person, the one who is about to speak, is now referring to himself, then we can take that grammatical syntax and plug it into the alphabet and say, whoever wrote the alphabet, it's referring to him. But right now it's a mystery. We don't know who wrote the alphabet yet. We're just looking at the alphabet. But if the aleph is referring to I, myself, bet is to embody or put into material form. And gimel is to set in motion, and dalet is a door. Okay, so what? The whole middle part of the alphabet, between the chet and the zadi, just to mention briefly, is key to the 7 days of creation, the 7 Moedim, the pattern, the tabanit of the Mishkan, validating then that the alphabet is designed by Yahuwah. The alphabet is not of human origin. I maintain that the alphabet was Yahweh's design referring to himself, hence the word in John 1:1. Therefore, if we say the aleph means I will, then bet means, well, I will make the universe, but also I will embody myself in the matter of the universe. Gimel, traveling as the voyager to Dalet. What's Dalet? Well, Dalet is 4, so it speaks of earth. You could say